This is Sunrise. I'm Ayo Makinde. Well, as it would see, I'm on my own today. I don't know how the cold is affecting you, but there is some people, quite a number of people, who are seriously affected by it. I've had conversations with two of my friends this morning. One of them is not here. Well, the cold is not very, very merciful to some people. So that's just it. Waking up very, very groggy, even sleeping very groggy and all of that. So, well, that's why I'm on my own today. I hope I don't get beaten down by the same thing. Today is July, let me just be sure, 2. Yes, July 2. The second half of the year 2022 has started. How far so far for you? If things aren't going according to your plan, to your to-do list, to your goals for the year, I don't think you should despair. Here is what's on my mind. Perhaps the question you should ask yourself is, are you ready for that next level? Are you ready for that promotion? Are you ready for that car, that house, that whatever it is, that contract that you're asking for? If you got it today, how will you maintain it? It's one thing, we hear that from motivational speakers and leadership consultants. It's one thing to get there. It's another thing altogether to stay there. So are you ready for it? Ready for the car? Ready for the millions in your bank account? Are you ready for it? Or you just want to see the money, as some people will say, breathing in the account? Well, that's just that. Well, I want to talk about two things just before we get into the program today. I think sometime not too long ago, the National Electricity Regulatory Agency said the entire value chain of the power sector in Nigeria, comprising the GENCOs, the TRANCOs, and the DISCOs, they have committed to signing a contract that will ensure delivery of 5,000 megawatts of electricity to consumers all over the country. And that's you, right? So today is, that's supposed to be delivered by July 1, or from July 1. Today is July 2. How far so far? Perhaps the Nigeria Electricity System Operator, which is a semi-autonomous department under the Transmission Company of Nigeria, would be able to give us an update. I hope you'll be able to see it on your screen shortly. As at June 1, that's yesterday, what you will find on the website of the system operator that monitors the grid, that's it right there, is 3,552.30 megawatts. I thought that by yesterday we should have 5,000 megawatts. Did I miss the memo, or do Nigerians not understand what is being said? Now, perhaps some other perspectives can help us. The World Bank says we need something in the region of $100 billion over 10 years to attain a balance of electricity that we require. As at the last count, some believe that over the last 9 or 10 years, we have had about 200 grid collapses. What are the things responsible for the grid collapses? The last time the grid collapsed, we understand that power supply dropped, or generation, or whatever it is, on this same website, dropped from 3,000 plus to 9 megawatts. That was about 2 days after, about 2 days before the report, went live. The last time that collapse happened. And guess what happens? Right, the following day or 2 days after, grid collapse had been, we kind of recovered from it a little bit, and we got to something 2,000 plus megawatts. But as of today, if you go to the website of the system operator, that is what you will find there. We're not even near we're not near 4,000 yet. We're just barely over 3,500 megawatts. So what is government doing, you might ask? Of course, the government is doing a lot of things. The rural electrification project is going on. A sizable number of rural communities have power supply. We've been told that one quite a number of times. And there's a lot of international collaborations that's making that happen. If you want to know more about that one, go to the Rural Electrification Agency's website, rea.gov.ng. You guys have to pay for that advert to Channels Television. But beside that, call this one of our social responsibility projects. So people should know why some rural communities have electricity and some urban communities do not have. Maybe it's because of the activities of the Rural Electrification Agency. I don't know. And then, of course, there's conversations around the Siemens contract. You know, how much is being done? How far has that gone? I guess we'll wait for the minister also to come out and tell us that. You know, one of the things we also understand, a number of us will remember that sometime, maybe about a year or two ago, the president traveled, met, you know, those people working on that Siemens contract, and one is wondering how far so far. As of 2020, beginning of 2020 actually, the governor of Kaduna State, Governor Nasiru El-Rufai, said Nigeria has spent about 1.7 trillion naira on the broken electricity sector. That's his precise word. As of 2020, we spent 1.7 trillion naira on electricity supply, and this is what we still have on our hands. In the middle of last month, the president approved the unbundling of the TCN, and the minister said work is almost done on that. But do we have to wait for the unbundling to happen before we hit the 5,000 megawatts from July 1, 2022? I guess we wait to see. By the way, you may want to ask yourself, how much power really do we need? The executive director of the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, Mr. Sunday Oduto, says, for Nigeria to have adequate and stable power supply, we need at least 180,000 megawatts of electricity. And guess what we have now? 3,552.30 megawatts, according to the system operator. So, dear Minister, when are we going to have the 5,000 megawatts? Has there been a shift in the timeline? I believe Nigerians would love to know. What's the capacity we have on our hands now? The last time, I think, was last year, spokesperson to the president, Garba Shehu, said we have capacity to produce 13,000 megawatts. So we don't even have up to 5. I guess Nigerians would love to see. Let me quickly talk about roads. The road around your area, first of all, we're happy and grateful for the work that people who are in charge of our roads, federal and state governments, are doing. And there are trunk A roads, which the federal government manages. There's trunk B roads, which the state governments are supposed to manage. And there are trunk C roads, which are supposed to be in the care of local governments. Why? Because the fourth schedule, I'm actually very impressed with what I heard the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, say and said when he had a public lecture recently. He appeared virtually. He said the most important tier of government we have in Nigeria is the local government system, the local government council. And he quoted the Constitution. He talked about the importance of the local government in the area of primary education, in the area of primary health care. One of those other functions of the local government system is the construction and maintenance of roads. If you have the Constitution, or you can Google it, just Google functions of the local government, one of the things you will find is that under the functions of a local government council, F says construction and maintenance of roads, streets and other public highways, street lights, drains, parks, gardens, open spaces, or such public facilities as may be prescribed from time to time by the House of Assembly of a state. Number 2, next to that one, naming of those roads and streets and numbering of houses. Those are their functions. So if the government, the local governments do not have autonomy. They don't have administrative autonomy. They don't have the financial autonomy. How will they be able to deliver? I mean, look at the roads now, especially now when the rains are pouring. Where are we going to get the things that we need done when we don't even know? I mean, look at your own area. I mean, you're in Lagos, you're in Ondo, you're whichever part of Nigeria you are. Look at those roads. Does it only have to do with federal government or the state governments? The local governments have their own responsibilities, part of the roads as well. And guess what? The challenges are not just going to go. So let me ask you, Houses of Assembly members, especially those of you that have not considered the LG autonomy bills, please pass them so that the local governments can construct and maintain our trunk C roads. Now you, the voter, you who live around the areas where the roads are bad, some of those legislators are next door neighbors to you. Knock on their doors, tell them, pass the bills or you're not going back. We'll sack you. We'll not employ you again come 2023. Amen? Okay, that's just that. Let's take a look at what the menu says this morning. The first conversation we will be having is around ensuring youth participation. A panel hopefully will do a lot of educating for you on that one. Then we'll be talking about the ASUU strike, which is the fulcrum of, and fuel scarcity and all, which is the fulcrum of the NLC's planned protest. More on that will come during that second conversation. Then we'll talk about fighting illicit financial flow. As far back as 2015, if I remember correctly, the president, talked about that one, and we're still battling that with all of the infrastructure we have. More details on that later on. Then we'll have a conversation around the Lagos Leadership Conference. What that is about, you'll find out most certainly. And our artist of the week is human being. Let me stay there. Well, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the show when we return after this music break. But in the meantime, get your cocoa. Is it cocoa? We'll be back. Well, thank you for staying with us. That song doesn't get old at all. We are all we have to defend our land. And right now, a sizable number of people are looking to the youths to do that, defend our land. Isn't that why the national anthem also says that in its second verse? Direct our noble cause, guide our leaders, help our youths the truth to know. Question is, what's the truth? Well, the truth part of it is that Nigerian youths are a sizable number today in the population. According to statistics, Nigerian youths consistently accounted for more than 40% of the entire population consistently. And that's for the class of youths. But that's not to say that the population of Nigeria that's below 35, something in the region of 70% of the entire population. So in recent times, the agitation of youths over the state of governance in the country is becoming alarming. And of course, if you are close to the social media or you hear about it, you most certainly know some of these things. So many youths have been raising their concerns over the states of policy, encouraging one another to get their permanent voter cards ahead of the general elections. Let's further our conversation on how we ensure that they don't just get the PVCs as one of those aesthetics or those identity cards they need for all kinds of transactions, but they actually use it consistently. Over the years, what we have found out is that between 1999 and today, the more people you have on the voter register of INEC, the lower the percentage of people who actually come out to vote. Why is that? Let's have this conversation this morning with, let's say ladies first, so I'm going to honor that this morning. Sholakwe Adeshuyi is a youth advocate. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sitting next to him is Babashola Uwaje, who is a candidate of one of the political parties for the Lagos State House of Assembly and Koshofe Constituency 1, to be precise. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. He is already in the game. And we have a youth governance coach in Benga Ademujimi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me here.
Perhaps So, Adia, I want to begin with you. What has your own experience been? Because you are already in it. The challenges that you've had, the entry level, the ups and downs. I hear it's a game. I don't think governance is a game, but they say politics is. So I'm wondering, give us a sneak peek into your life before you got in, and how far so far.
Okay, thank you very much. So the game started last year. I actually contested.
So it's a game, really?
It's a game.
Oh, really?
If you look at it, if it's well, for the purpose of context, let's call it a game.
Okay.
Right? Because you need to understand the rules governing the game. Right? Sometimes the rules don't favor common sense. That's why a lot of people, look at it from outside and be like, okay, I'm just going to stay away from it. I contested in the local government elections last year. So, I mean, I was able to understand it better. And it was, it's a situation whereby it's not easy. The environment, we find ourselves in at the moment does not really encourage youth participation in politics beyond obtaining your PVC and voting, because it goes beyond that. It's very important for us to take that step further as youths. I'm under 35, and the earlier we start, the better for this country, because there's a huge lacuna between the elderly, people in politics through governance now, and the youths that are really clamoring for that change, the youths that are clamoring for, the inclusion in politics.
What's your own experience been?
It's been a roller coaster. I think I'll say I'm lucky to have found myself in a more stable environment politically compared to other places. So personally, I've really enjoyed the experience, and I believe that we have a lot to do in terms of orientation. It's very huge. Sometimes when I sit down with my friends, I can't even discuss politics beyond, social commentary, what we read on the newspapers and all. It's difficult to reach out to them because, in quote, they're not in the game.
One?
Yes, it's difficult to reach out to them. So there is a huge need for a national orientation, but this will not come from the media, and it's meant to come from the political parties. We have a situation whereby we're doing little or nothing in terms of youth inclusion in politics.
So you probably agree, from what I can hear you say now, with a comment from Sami Todo. He sat right there where you sat when he was in our studio here, and he said there's a difference between voter education and political education.
100%.
So you also agree that we need that political education,
yes,
not just the voter education.
I'm actually a political scientist by discipline. I study political science, and it's something that didn't just start now. Right from my university days, I was able to understand and learn some theories governing politics. Right? It's as much as possible in this country, more than ever. We need, advocates that can,
It's interesting. It's interesting that you talk about policies, because the last time I checked, some people say that some of the policies that govern political science, or policies that govern policies don't, or principles that govern policies don't seem to work in Nigeria. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Of course, yes, I agree that some of those principles that we know work in other climes somehow have failed to work in Nigeria. But that's also because of largely we have this dirt in leadership. And it's because, like you said, there's a huge gap between the current, the elderly, those who are, as it were, in governance right now, and the youth. And this gap has created, it's not just in terms of number, as in age, even in terms of know-how, in terms of knowledge, in terms of capacity building. And a lot of young people have not been into governance. Quite a number of our youth that you find on social media talk about politics and some things really do not even understand the history of Nigeria and the politics and how things have evolved over the years.
But do you blame them?
That's exactly my next sentence. I do not blame them. I do not blame them because we have not taken time to educate. And for instance, right now, as a youth advocate, one of the things I do to young people is to clearly encourage as many people as possible to get into the know of politics. And so as many, there are organizations, independent people that are carrying on political trainings for young people, and quite a number of them are free now to ensure that we're able to educate young people, as many as are interested in going into politics. Like I said, political youth participation in governance is beyond just voting and registering for a card. We have to be part. We have to be part of the decision makers, stakeholders, getting involved. And getting involved, of course, is not. It's not that simple. You have to go through learning the process. You have to be ready to get into the game.
What's the first step that you would say should be it? What's the first step people should take? Those who you would encourage to get involved, just as you say.
Okay, so the first step will be to look beyond themselves. Yeah, because it's important to say that governance and politics is not about self. Because that's where we've gotten on. You have to look beyond yourself and begin to see my community, where I am, what can I do? We have young people in local communities within our states, and you have to look beyond just thinking about their pockets. And I know that the challenges are real. We're talking about youth who are still looking for employment. We're talking about youth who are trying to run businesses. I know quite a number of people who are doing one thing or the other to ensure there's the financial capacity. So I think the first step is for each youth to discover themselves, know who they are, what they want for their lives, because until you're able to discover yourself, you actually cannot lead.
But you know, you have aced it when you said, you know, it's difficult to look beyond self, because a sizable number of these young people, as we speak, have been home because their lecturers are on strike for the past 4 months.
True.
There was a time in history, I don't know, you may remember, where ASUU strike lasted 18 months. Some of my colleagues in this organization were victims, you know, of that. So that challenge is right before them. And as the national president of the National Association of Nigerian Students said, eventually the federal government will settle with ASUU. They will not lose anything. It is the students that will lose a lot because the houses that they have rented, there is no pause on the rental. There is no pause on the budget they would have spent to eat and take care of themselves, to deal with some issues in the course of their study. So those challenges are there. Now they have to go look for extra money. The challenges are right there in their faces. So it's going to be difficult to say, don't look for yourself. I agree
with you, and I couldn't agree more, because you see, we can go on and talk about the challenges that are against the youths in Nigeria today. However, when you have this kind of situation, the truth is that there has to be some form of disruption, some things that go beyond the ordinary, beyond the normal. And that's why, and then there are different, don't forget that there are different categories of youth. When I say categories, some are more opportune than the other. So there are those who already have advantages and, as it were, would have to leverage their current advantage, not just for themselves, but to enhance the entire nation and youth participation in politics.
Okay. Let me come to you, Mr. Ademuchimi. So I would like you to take a historical perspective to this whole conversation about youth participation in politics. A good number of people will recall that the independence we're talking about today came because some young people decided to ask for independence. First, I think it was in 1964, when Fani Kayode, proposed it, but that was shut down at the time. And then further on, 1954. And then further on, I think it may be 56 or 59 or thereabout, that bill came back. by Anthony Nahoro, and we have what we have today. They were young. The Awolowos, the Azikiwes, the Tafawa Balewas, they were very young people in their 20s and early 30s and all of that. But it would seem that we didn't carry on that torch. We didn't sustain that trajectory for the young people today, such that now, even in the last dispensation, the youth leader of one political party was in his 70s. So in terms of getting the youths involved, first of all, interested and then involved, how do you see the political structure in the country structured in a way that encourages or not the young ones?
Okay, thank you very much. So before we go to the political structure, can we talk about the Nigeria state structure, Nigeria structure itself? If a foundation is destroyed, there is nothing any 1 million righteous men can do about it. You have two options. Crash the building, start all over again, or you allow the building to crash on you and you are dead. So what happens to our structure? What we practiced before now, was it not profitable? Talking about the regional system. That is why Ayo, Pa Taiwo Akekumi designed Nigerian national flag as a youth traveling to Britain to go and study after his first degree here. What was the compensation for him, as it were? That was 1959. In 2009, fast forward how many years? This man was sick of some ailments in Ibadan. I was one of the people who took him to the hospital. No national award was given until people started crying and one telecommunication company gave him maybe 2 million. I cannot remember, until he owned a house. When the wages of every laborer is entitled to him. When we see, or when our children see that, look at what my father did. I sit here, my father was one of the brains, one of the people who constructed Ashijire Dam, old Oyo State, now Osun State. Do you want me to tell you about how the government treated my own father? What makes people like us to still stand, even at our age, is because of our love for the country. Why? Because this is not a hobby for us. It is not a burden, but is a calling. But the question is this: how many of these children, how many of these youths see this as a calling?
So the first thing you are questioning is our reward system as a nation.
As a nation, that comes out of the structure, because every product is guided, is operated by a manual. When that manual is not there, or when that manual is manipulated or perverted, what becomes of the product? So the manual that governs Nigeria, called Constitution, which is actually Decree 24 of the military regime, how is it? Have we questioned it? How many people sat down to write it, representing people? That's number one. Number two, what happened to our civic education? It has been manipulated, it has been edited, it has been perverted. So these things, and Ayo, a good father will train his children and expect them to grow and be better. But in Nigeria, it is not so. These fathers and mothers climb the apex of life with a particular ladder and destroy the ladder. That is why. So when people talk about youth are irresponsible, they are this, they are idle, they are lazy. Hey, don't look at what is on the head. Look at the background. Look at the foundation.
Okay. Now, everyone would admit, with that conversation, the last 3 years or so that I have hosted programs on this channel, we have talked about these challenges and challenges and challenges. Yeah. But I think we can all agree that you can't stay in an environment that gets you sick and expect to get well in that same environment. So there are people who are in the system now, and we haven't really gotten the kind of thing that we want. Perhaps that's why people are advocating and admonishing young people to get into the system. Hopefully, they would have new thinking. They would have, because I recall, and I say this, the advantage that the young folks who fought for independence had was education. Their parents didn't have it. The advantage that the young people have today, in my opinion, is technology. Their parents don't have it. They are digital immigrants. But these young people are digital natives. And that's the power that they have now. So do you see a place, a time where, with the policies that we have or don't have, because some young people we all know have done so well for themselves that they build small infrastructure, small systems, small businesses that are sold for hundreds of millions of dollars in the same country. Right. And it's in this country that they did it. And they sold it still in this country. Young people did something, the Kurudu boys, for instance, put it on the internet, and a number of people saw them on Netflix and all that, and they began. So the opportunities are there for young people.
Thank you.
In terms of governance, what do we need to do? We know the challenges are there. As you said, the structures are faulty, but we can't wait. We shouldn't wait, because most young people don't have an option. This is the only country that they have.
Okay.
So what can we do now, encouraging the young people to get involved so that they can begin to tinker with the engine, oil the wheels, and do better?
Okay, so the examples you gave are fantastic, but don't forget that is in technology entertainment, which is global. They operate on the global platform. They are not limited here. Nigerian governing system is not global. Every politics is local. Absolutely right. And don't get it wrong. When these people make up their mind to do what is right, I supported Babashola when he said what we should do is orientation. That's why I mentioned civic education. Where our students, our children should have learned their social responsibility, civic responsibility, national engagement. But it's not there. Where is NOAA? Not NOAA Zaku, National Orientation Agency. Where are they? What are they doing? When last have you heard about them? So is it deliberate that intentionally they just put it there and nothing is working there? So we need to, NGOs, individuals, religious organizations, traditional institutions. In fact, if I have my opportunity, I will ensure that every KBSs, every OBs, every emirs, every week there is town hall meeting in their area every week to engage our youth and educate them. That you know what? You don't have to sit down. Why? Because you can't determine the ingredients for a soup when you're outside the kitchen. So they have to come. At the same time, I understand, because I coach them, so I understand their thinking and their fears. Let me give you just one. Ayo, your daughter wants to vote, and she's no, we no go agree. We have to vote. I have my PVC, I have this. Who are you voting for? I'm voting for party A, blah, blah. And on election day, why on cue? Some guys just came from nowhere. Bam! Please, when you hear that, what will you tell you?
So election, it's a whole gamut. It's a whole gamut. But let me come back to you, Mr. Uwaje. Those fears are genuine, you would admit. But is it strong enough, in your opinion, to hold the large population of young people back?
So what I want to state here is that, you see, the youths we have now, we have an advantage. And I want to call it superior thinking. We have enumerated the challenges here. Challenges, yeah. But we need to start looking beyond that. When I joined politics last year, I joined a political party where we were just 3 in the whole local government. When I was going to have my elections last year, I called 33 of my friends to be polling agents. They knew nothing about politics. I told them, just stay there, wear the tag, And the one advice I gave them said, if they show you gun, just relax. You understand? But one thing people noticed was that the way they conducted themselves, they didn't come there for violence. They just came to do their job. You know, there was a spirit of, should I say, camaraderie amongst the people that came to, in quote, disrupt whatever was there to disrupt. And they just, this guy is a nice guy, you know. Okay, you know. What I'm trying to say is that at some point we need to start looking beyond our fears. The people that fought for independence, the people that fought for the annulment of democracy, you know, they looked beyond their fears. At some point they had to run, you know, when it was getting too hot. But the moment we start looking beyond our fears, you would be surprised at how much power, at how much traction we can gain. Okay, the political party I'm representing now, I mean, I joined last year. You know, it was a matter of superior thinking. Okay, we see what you have to offer as a youth. Come. Do you understand? We can't keep sitting down and expect to be counted. We have to stand up, right? If you look at it, if we do a macro analysis, for example, the premier of Kosovo, you know, the regent of San Marino, these people are under 35. The premier of Finland, you know, it was said that she went for a disco party, she's 36. Why can't we look at, we import, you know, a lot of world views, especially as youths. You know, that's coming back to technology now. We import a lot of world views. Why can't we as well look at what these people did? Macron became president at 39, right? And these are people that are out there. If we bring it back to our local space, we know that there's a lot of soot, you know, a dark cloud over youthful inclusion in politics. And you understand what I mean by a dark cloud. He spoke about people destroying the ladder. And it's quite unfortunate, but at some point we just have to start building our own ladders. Yes, we have to start doing it. Because what would happen within the next 2 windows, when I mean 2 windows, I mean 8 years, is that we will start looking for leaders we would not find.
Thank you.
If we're not careful. So beyond, I take solace in the fact that we are somewhat awake now. If you see the spike in, you know, voters registration, it's encouraging. But my fear now is the application of that next year. Last year, less than 10% of registered voters voted in the local government election. Less than 10%. So it's very important to, you know, we need to start looking at these figures. Okay. Before we go into the next election, let's put it and have it at the back of our mind that Lagos, the commercial nerve center of Nigeria, voted in their governor with a little above 700,000 votes. And we claim, or we are most probably over 14 million people in Lagos.
22 million.
I mean, so when we start talking about these figures, you can see the huge discrepancy in
the number of people who come out to vote.
Okay. And youths make up for over 70% of the people in the country.
Okay, well, so, madam, you will graduate from the 3rd level PA, you become a 2nd level PA, 1st level PA, or whatever it is until you get there. So what do you think of that? That's one. Second leg is gender inclusion. It's very important because I contend that, well, young men, I'm a man, but I'm not going to look in your eyes and say, before saying this, women are stronger, whether we like it or not.
I agree.
A much stronger balance mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and all of that. And looking at all kinds of cases we have on our hands, corruption cases, criminal cases, and all, the figures don't favor the men. But at the same time, it's the men that hold the reins of authority and all of that. So how do we balance these two levels that I just mentioned to you? I'm giving you that task because first, you're a woman, and secondly, you're a youth advocate.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I would first say that based on the comment credited to the Vice President, I think, you know, truly it's been said that you see better when you ride on the shoulders of those who have gone ahead of you. So, of course, it's just correct to say that every young person who is interested in governance and who wants to see Nigeria advance should begin to think of joining. And just like Babashola here, go beyond registering and get involved at the local level, the ward. There are political parties at all ward level. I like the fact that just 3 of them were involved. And what an opportunity to quickly get positioned and be recognized. So I think young people should take this momentum that is on the social media and for voters registration and go ahead and begin to think of joining political parties at the ward level. However, it's also important to strategize to find mentors in politics. Not to say that I am, validating the political godfatherism that we know here, but, and that's where the balance must be. As much as you need those who are ahead to learn, you also need to have your own self. Like I said before, you must have your own mind. We must grow beyond just wanting to replicate what those who have gone ahead of us have done, because at least the fact speaks for itself. We need to begin to think, how do we ensure that we are not replicating the errors that has been done. So it means that people, voter education, we must improve the knowledge base, we must build capacity, we must align with mentors whose examples speak and that we would like to align with. And of course, that way can begin to build. I also think it's important for young people to synergize. So I see that a lot in people getting vehicles for people to go and register, provide water at registration booths and all that.
Play music for them.
Play music. I love what those in the entertainment industry are doing, organizing concerts and getting people. But beyond that, at the level of registering and awareness, we must begin to look at how we then get involved in the decision-making process, get involved in the political parties. We talked about the delegates during the primaries a lot, and of course, but it's the people that make up the delegates. So if we're not in the parties, we cannot become the delegates. The delegates, as it were, own the power to say, these are the people that will represent us. Then as far as women participation is concerned, gender balance, it is no longer news. It's a globally recognized thing that you need to involve women in politics and in governance at all levels. Governance begins, of course, from the home. We all know how much influence our wives or sisters have on the home to raise people. So you cannot overemphasize this capacity in women.
They're the vice president or deputy governor. They are the president of the Senate.
They are financial controllers.
They're the minister of finance, the chief accountant, auditor general.
You cannot overemphasize the capacity of a woman. And any nation that consistently removes the women from being in position of power actually is shortchanging itself. It's just a matter of time. And of course, we are here today saying it that Nigeria, as it were, we've been shortchanged because we have limited the participation of women in politics. So I think right now, also that the women should also look beyond, I know that we talk about these challenges. How do I run for young ladies? From the voter registration, it was shown recently that the increase in voter registration was is contributed to by largely students and housewives. That's INEC statistics. That the recent increase was seen largely contributed to by students and housewives. Of course, so women can say, okay, I have time. I want to be a part of this, but beyond just registering again, I'm saying that the women must say that I'm not just going to sit down and do nothing. I have to be in the place where they're taking that decision. The market women are there. We must go beyond the level where you're just looking for a man to support and somebody to give you a few peanuts and say, come and vote for me. But to say that now we want to be part of the decision process.
Okay.
It is so critical.
Let me take you to a part we haven't, really gone to. Well, most of you, if not all, are from the Southwest, but I'd like you to speak to the Northwesterner, to the Northeasterner, to the North Central Nigerian, to the Southeasterner, to the South Nigerian. They are in their own space. They have their own peculiarities. that may not be known to a sizable area that you have been? And I know that you have traveled the country far and wide, you know. What are some of the peculiar challenges you think some of these people in the various parts of Nigeria have that may not be as prominent as they should be, that are contributing to either their own encouragement or apathy about voting or even about political party membership altogether?
Okay. For example, in the North, if I should rate the voters' apathy in North, it's very, very low compared to us here. And very, very low. You know, in the North, their feudal system helps them to some extent, even though we see some negativities there. But the truth of the matter is, in terms of politics and elections, it helps them. Because the Godfather says, and I do. That's all. In Southwest, the Godfather says, I will do 50%.
The Godfather says, who is that?
But in the Southeast and South-South, who be the Godfather? Where did they come from? Do you understand? Those are our peculiarities. Now, what I feel or what I've seen in the South...
Just a second. That's not to say that there is significant information available to fellow Nigerians all over the
No. That's why I'm going. That, for example, over there, how do you justify a people that the only station, communication channel they listen to is a particular channel on the radio? And any other information or any other news from any other place doesn't matter. For me, that's too narrow. That's too myopic. And you don't blame them. That is how they were raised, intentionally, to raise them like that so that they can have just one mind traffic lane.
Monosyllabic thinking.
Thank you. Then in the Southeast and South-South, what I see there is arrogance of ignorance. If there's anything like that, when you don't know, wisdom demands that you humble yourself to know. And I don't blame them. I think where they are coming from is not helping them. Everybody wants to have an opinion, and everybody wants to instill that opinion. Everybody wants to ensure that it is my own ideology or my own idea or my own say that happens.
But all of this, my apologies, because we're winding down in about 30 seconds. All of this is not to say that the dearth of political education that you ascribed to the National Orientation Agency, if that was significant, will we still have these challenges in the various regions? So
I mentioned NOA and I mentioned other institutions, traditional institutions, religious centers, schools, and other NGOs. If all these sectors, all these departments in our social infrastructure comes together, the truth of the matter is this lacuna, this gap will be highly reduced.
Okay. Last words now, Mr. Waje. If you were to address a number of youths now in 30 seconds, what would you be telling them?
It's possible. Youth inclusion in politics is possible. Are there challenges? Yes, but we need to look beyond the challenges if we are going to get included. And we have to get, we must get included. It's very compulsory because within the next 2 windows, like I said, we're going to have ourselves to blame. Because we'll be there without any form of leadership. We'll be there without any form of numbers.
And I don't think that's a place I don't want to see that day come. Well, madam.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I'll say it's our time. It's now. And it's possible. And everybody needs to rise up. Go beyond the leap. Go beyond the social media. Get involved. Be counted.
And for me, sir, all Nigerian youths, please rise up. Be like a Banky W. Invade the National Assembly. Please leave that presidency, whatever. Just leave it there. Don't bother.
You don't even want them to start at the local government level?
No. What I'm saying is that National Assembly. We have lots of youth at the local government level now. Ask him. in all parties, even parties that you don't know. Trust me, we have guys there.
Okay.
But where the power lies in changing Nigeria, please, mass invasion, National Assembly.
Well, I have to thank you very much all for being here this morning. Benga Ademujimi, Youth Governance Coach. Thank you so much. We'll have to bring you down to come and do some coaching for the young people. Sholakpe Adeshuyi, Youth Advocate, thank you so much for your time and for adjusting your schedule. We have to acknowledge that. And Baba Shola Uwaje, candidate of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Koshofe Constituency 1. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
Our next conversation is still in the interest of the young people. We'll be back after now. Thank you for staying with us. Well, in the course of the week, the Nigeria Labour Congress announced its plan to protest over the protracted ASUU strike and the incessant insecurity situation in the country. At two separate conferences in Abuja, the president of the NLC and the president of NOLGE, president of the NLC, Ayuba Waba, and president of NOLGE, that's the Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees, Mr. Ambali Alatunji, decried the worsening security situation in the country. Let's have a conversation around that this morning with Honorable Comrade Uchenna Ekwe, who is Head International Relations and Liaison to the National Assembly in the NLC. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Honorable.
Good morning, thank you.
We also have with us Remi Dairo, who is President, Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Dairo.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here again.
Well, let me begin with you, Honorable Ekwe. This conversation around a strike, can you give us an inkling exactly what are we talking about here, and why is it important for Nigerians to be aware of it?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are aware, the universities for upward 4 months now have been shut down because of the strike occasioned by non-implementation of agreements reached with ASUU and the total breakdown on negotiations. And for a long time, the NLC and its allies watched, believing that the system, the governance, will get sensitive to this matter. And about a month ago, sometime in March, the NLC issued a warning that there's a need to speed up and resolve the lingering crisis because the public schools have majority of the students from the poor families, families of the working people, families of workers, farmers, artisans, and traders, people who cannot afford the exorbitant fee of the few private universities and institutions. And bearing in mind the damage this is doing to not just the young people, to their psyche, keeping people out of school for 3 months as if it is normal. And we issued a warning urging the government to quickly resolve the matter or we go on a protest. The government on its part, and we said this should be escalated to a higher level, called a meeting that was chaired by the Chief of Staff to the President. But since then, a window of 3 weeks was given by the parties to resolve the critical issues. But up to today, they have not been resolved. And one wonders how a government will be dragging its foot and will be comfortable keeping the number of youths at home and not going to school.
Well, Honorable Ekwe, I'm just wondering, you know, what the modalities would be. There are those who wonder, is this a political gimmick on the part of the NLC and the labor in general, or it's really something that is genuinely intended? Because a protest is okay, but the objective, some might be wondering exactly why it has taken the NLC 4 months. And it wasn't just 4 months ago that the issues that NLC, that the ASUU had with the federal government started. It started quite some time ago, and there's been warnings and counter warnings and all of that. So why has it taken so long?
Well, I think you first answered the first part of your question, which was people wondering whether it's a gimmick. Why do I say you have answered it? You, in the course of asking this question, you have alluded and accepted the fact that this crisis has been ongoing and warning have been issued. You know, generally, we are never in a hurry to go on strike, nor in a hurry to do protest. We are not strike merchants or protest merchants. We do all these things only when we are pushed to the wall as a last resort. So if anybody is imagining whether the protest is a political gimmick, that person must be living in a foreign land. In my introduction, I reminded us that sometime in March, the NLC sent a warning, a letter, not a warning, a formal letter to the president asking that for his intervention for these matters to be resolved. First, the unions in the academic institutions, which is Academic Staff Union, Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, and Non-Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, the NAT, and other unions in that industry, by the procedure, have been having engagement with government. And we have expected that people will come to reasoning and deal with these issues before it generates to the point where we are. And now, and that's a time the challenge we have, where we try to bid our time so that people will see reason and deal with the issue properly. Now, we've gotten to the head where we want to protest, and somebody wants to narrow it to a political gimmick. But in any case, we're not afraid if anybody wants to narrow it to that. Because after all, you cannot really divorce abandoning education to the issue of, you can't separate it to the question and crisis of good governance. Because if good governance is on, no one will allow the economic school institutions of higher learning or whatever, of any sort, or any institution of education to be shut down for such a period of time.
Okay.
So if anyone chose to bring the blackmail of political gimmick, it will not make us shy away. We'll face it frontally, because with good governance, we can't have such an issue.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, like I said, we cannot be blackmailed. The young people should also sum up courage to get involved politically and resolve the political system that will keep people out of education for a very long time.
Okay. Mr. Dairo, I guess, first of all, what's your take on the planned protest of labor?
Yeah, I think, thank you very much. I think is the right thing to do after ASUU has tried to get the attention of the government. There'll be so much meeting back-to-back, meetings and meetings and meetings, and destinies of students are rotting away at home. I think the labor came in because they think the ASUU could not get the attention of the government. So the NLC now said, okay, as part of what their contribution, their responsibility to bring, to bring value to labor. Because the first capacity, the first elementary capacity of a labor is a student in school. So if the students will become the labor of tomorrow, what are we talking about? So if labor cannot stand up now, of course, I mean, some will say we are coming labor. They've waited enough for the back-to-back meeting with, ASUU and government and all sorts of. I don't want to talk about lies here because the minister came about, last week and said, okay, they got a letter from ASUU. I mean, they sent a letter. ASUU denied, they didn't get sorted. I mean, there was so much, games everywhere. And these are destinies of young ones sitting at home for 4 months. You know what 4 months means in the section? And this had happened over the years from government to government, as if our government does not have any priority or any, concern for education of tomorrow, of the leaders of tomorrow. So leaders of tomorrow is just, a play on lips. I think it is time for the government to be gingered, and that's what NS is doing right now. And I mean, they're coming up with one day strike. I mean, 1 day, warning strike before they go. I mean, so I think a lot of things are wrong, but it's the step in the right direction. Well, productivity must come back to Nigeria as we expected.
Well, what they call it is a 1 day protest. Hopefully, hopefully not a strike yet. I dread that idea. But question I do want to ask is just how much do you think that would achieve? Because as you rightly said, I mean, ASUU has been on strike for 4 months now, and that is not the first time. Under the previous ASUU administration of Professor Ogunyemi, ASUU went on strike and came back and went on strike and came back, and, nothing was really resolved until there was a change of guards in ASUU, and we now have Professor Shudeke, who is president. When he became president, he said, you know what, let's suspend the strike, let's have another conversation with government. And so far, this is what we have. A good number of people whose children are in school have been unable to do anything about it. Some of them, the Minister of Labor also said that, look, his own children are also at school, and who knows who else. And several other people who are Nigerians, their children are at home now. So how much do you think a 1 day protest of the NLC and NOGE will achieve?
Yeah, I mean, a protest, I don't want to, I'm on national TV. I don't want to say that strike would have been the appropriate, but the protest is the first step of saying, oh, we are not happy about this thing, and then please get the attention of, get back to table, resolve with ASUU. Protest is good, but I think we've had so much protest on different things. How much has NLC been able to achieve through protest? But it's good because, I mean, the country will be gingered, the country will be mobilized, to know that something is going on. Did we not know? Did we need to do a protest to get attention from government? Protest. After 4 months, that means the government's ears are closed and they are waiting for protests to wake up. I mean, I don't understand. The life of young ones are in the hands of the government, so to say now, because they are the ones that will determine if the people go back to school. Oh, the government is saying, oh, if you answer ASUU now, oh, the Polytechnic, lecturers will come forth, and then the College of Education and all that. So we are careful of our negotiation and our conclusion, so that other group will not, kick up their own strike and all that. I mean, we need to go back to the table and discuss the purpose of government and the priority of government. Are there not things moving on other sectors? As if education is not relevant. For first month, 4 weeks out, second 4 weeks out, another 4 weeks out. Imagine how many weeks, how many days. To me, not just a protest. I think it is time for parents to even all parents whose children are out of school should come out and occupy the OPs. I'm telling you, I'm not trying to bring confusion here. I'm only saying how important education, how important the life of this young was in my heart. I think the protest is good, first step. But I think the government should wake up. In fact, announcing protest is already a protest. Announcing protest, I mean, everywhere, is just to give the government that information. Let's buckle up. What do we need to do so that this protest will not, come to pass? But now, if the protest goes, that means the government is waiting for protest. I'm not happy about this. Because I know when I was in school, there was ASUU strike. I left school, there was ASUU strike. I was working, there was ASUU strike. I've worked on I have my own business, there has been ASUU strike. Now I have children, there's ASUU strike. When would this thing stop? It is not good at all.
Okay.
For the economy of the country. And you know what? We always think our oil, our crude oil is our natural resource. It is not so. The human resources are the most powerful resource of a country, not the natural resources. One day, this oil we are all talking about that we think we have, I mean, might not be needed because they're already improving cars that will not use gas or use fuel anymore. So what will happen? These children that you are not taking care of today will now in turn be added to the country. Do you know how many people that have gone to Yahoo? Do you know that on Facebook and social media there are Yahoo groups that these young people that have left not going to school have joined? Do you know how many people that have left the country? Brain drain, and the country does not even have data of people who are living. Do you know the country should be earning from everyone that leave the country to add value to other country? Do you know that's a source of income? But the government is just concerned about things that I don't want to talk about.
Okay.
Because they don't understand the power of human capital. So they're saying, okay, I mean, it's just disheartening.
Well, most certainly a passionate thing. Well, Honorable Ekwe, maybe we should ask you if there have been any conversation or any overtures to or from representatives of government. Was there any letter sent to the government, the federal government, about the proposed protest of Labour and Norgay? What are the conversations that you have had, if any, with any agent or official of government at the federal level in particular?
Yeah, thank you. First, of course, there is a communication immediately after the National Executive Council meeting of the NLC. And it's not just Norgay. All the unions within the NLC family are involved, from the Nigerian Union of Teachers to NUPENG, to Road Transport Workers Union. All the unions, medical and health workers, nurses and midwives, all the unions in the NLC, private and public, are all part of this decision. After that decision, we've not gotten any communication. Bear in mind that we have written the government since March, and no meaningful progress has been made on the issues. I am happy that Remy was able to take us back accurately to the fact that this matter has been lingering for a very long time. And I'm also happy that he has raised all the questions of the frustration, and which is the frustration for everybody. Then the issue of will one day protest, I am so happy the way he captured it. Even announcing a protest is a protest on its own. But the decision is that the one-day protest is a warning to a build-up to a national strike if nothing happens. Also, people have insinuated, and rightly too, that there have been so many of these protests over several governments and it's not achieving the goal. The reason is obvious. the people who have been having the position of governance clearly pay little or no attention to education, clearly pay little or no attention to the cost of undeveloped human capital. And thirdly, what is the priority of the political class? If you take the summary of how much ASUU is asking and add the cost of only presidential forms in two of the major parties, 100 million and 40 million, the money generated will stop ASUU strike and the universities will open. And these are the political class that want to keep leading the nation. Even a build-up to election, the candidates of the leading parties have not even uttered a word for or against the strike or what they will do in education. It is clear that something needs to give way in the country to return our education system to working. Why do we need to return the education system? Remy captured part of it. Now you have more young people who have been forced out of staying at home to join the Yahoo Yahoo. The pressure this is giving to families. Families are so scared. People are worried what will happen to their children. But you see, my message to the young people is that we can't be lamenting over the years. We have lamented, we have lamented, we have lamented, and clearly, even announcing the protest as a captured, which is already a protest, and we're not getting reaction from the political class. The political class have to be changed. Okay. That's why I say we cannot be blackmailed to feel that it's political. It has to get political.
Honorable Ekwe, let me ask this. So what's the modalities for this strike? You've said that all unions affiliated to the NLC are going to be involved. Exactly what does this protest entail? In what states of the country or where will the protests be held?
The protests will take on simultaneously in all the state capitals, including the FCT. On that day, workers and their allies, students, and including even families who feel bothered about this situation will all join in this peaceful protest in all the states of the Federation and the FCT. That's what it entails. And like we said, this will be step one into the big issues because we have endured it, but it is not acceptable that families will be kept under this pressure, the young people will be kept under this pressure of keeping them out of school. And like people will say, is this a part of a long-term plan to keep the children of the poor out of governance? Governance now means economic governance. Because let's bear in mind, because the people that will get the right jobs have to be educated.
Okay. Well, when you say,
the people that will get into political positions have to be educated.
Honorable, when you say,
the people that will run the system,
when you say that
have to be educated.
The issues.
Is it a grand plan?
Just 1 second,
to keep
Honorable.
Away.
When you say that the issues have to get political, what do you mean?
What I mean is that the young people should arise, get together, and vote out the class that don't want them to go to school. That's what it means.
Does it also
the
include...
young people should also take power.
Yeah. Does
and
it also
the class
include...
that have over these years have refused the school system to work.
Yes.
Because the decision is taken, the decision about education is taken by those in political power. That's where the decision is taken.
Does it also include the fact that the NLC...
It's not taken from
just 1 second,
protest.
Honorable. Does it also include the fact that the NLC and Labour generally is supporting a particular political party?
Yeah, As a matter of fact, over the years, we have decided to move out all politically into the Labour Party and do what other of our colleagues have done all over the world. Yes, we are supporting the Labour Party. There's no pretension about it. We have have our manifesto. We have clarity about what to do in education. We have clarity about what to do in petroleum sector. We have clarity about what to do in security system. So the NLC and Labour have clearly made up its mind to go all out political, because these decisions will not change from our protests.
Okay.
It will change by our taking political power in conjunction with the young people of Nigeria, the farmers of Nigeria, the artisans of Nigeria, the traders of Nigeria. We will come together under the Labour Party and take over the leadership of this country and run the country in a new way.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Dairo what your take is on that. I mean, the issues are governance related. Now, as you have heard the Honourable say, Labour in Nigeria has decided to go political. How strongly do you think that will sell both in the short term and in the long term with the Nigeria?
So let me clearly say that I'm not speaking for any political party. I'm not defending any party here. I'm just passionately speaking as a Nigerian and as somebody who has gone through stuff, because of ASUU and all, government, strike over the years. There's nothing wrong for Labour to come together and come up under a party to make that. To pursue a dream, political dream. But immediately we mentioned that. That's the warning now. Immediately, NLC mentioned that we are doing this because we have a political ambition. I tell you, the government will not take it serious, and then we'll come back to square one, because they will say, wow, the protest is a party protest. In fact, they can be arrested that you're disturbing the government of the day, right? If we are protesting for justice, we are protesting to rescue our young ones out of the streets and get back them to class, let us fight that. Let the parents from different parties, because the students who are at home are in different parties. They only have one struggle, and the struggle is my children is not going to school. There's one common goal. Our children must go back to campus. Now, immediately we put party, party in this equation. You see, the members of the party will say, no, don't worry, just chill out. By the time we come to power, we will resolve that. Oh, others will say, don't go, don't join them. They are only social party. I mean, there will not be a lot of, dimensions to this, and then that might not be effective because it will be politically inclined. But NSC have their reason, and then they know what they want to do, what they want to achieve. But I'm just warning that immediately we mention that, because the problem we have here is a problem of the nation, irrespective of any party. That you're in PDP, then APC, then Labour, then ABGA, all our children are not going to school. But people are crying, people are suffering. It is not the children of APC that are at home, neither is the children of the Labour that are at home, neither the children of ABGA or PDP that are at home. It is the children of all parents. Therefore, let parents stand up with one voice. Okay. Let Labour, under the auspices of their primary purpose of fighting for the labor force, fighting for the human resources, fighting to rescue the productivity of a nation. Why not? Who also? But immediately we bring party in. Because we have seen this.
But Honourable, just a second, on that same issue, I mean, wouldn't you draw a parallel between what Labour is trying to do now in the year before the general elections and the very same thing that the current federal government did in 2014? Yeah. I mean, okay, since it's what you wanted to say, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that this same government, like Ojota, fighting the former government, PDP government, and we are saying, this is wrong, this is wrong. We are coming to change it. And people say, okay, why? Why are you doing it? So we are doing it because we want to rescue the government so that we can give better life to the people. And people supported them, voted them in. Now, see where we are. So we don't want that to happen again. Labour, please fight for labour cause. Then politically go underground and do your political work, and then convert people as much as you want. But I don't want us to marry labour purpose of rescuing the productivity of human resources with labour political agenda. It will crumble. It might crumble. Don't let me sound like a doom prophet. So that's my
Okay. Honorable Ekwe, you want to respond to that very quickly?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, there are tiny lines to this. And again, I am happy, including Remy raised the issue of several years of protests that have not been able to resolve this matter. And the strike, the protest was announced by Nigerian Labour Congress. The strike was not announced by the Labour Party. But on the question whether Labour is part of Labour Party, is not a deniable fact. We are. And what are we doing? What is new in what we are doing? Nothing. A group of people, I could remember a minister, a one-time minister who is now a governor, once told us in the NLC during a negotiation that all these things you Labour people are pushing that you want our government to do, and that's several years back, that if you want to do it, go and form your party and run your agenda. We're dealing with our agenda. Our agenda is to do this. Workers all over the world know this fact. I don't know whether you've listened to President Biden in the recent times, where he kept publicly saying that he's not ashamed to be called a workers' president. And he have made a proposal for the increase of minimum wage of workers in the United States.
So as far as you're concerned, I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong, because we need to wrap up now, Honorable. As far as you're saying, it's just a point of caution.
We clearly know. We have watched over the years. Okay. These matters have not been resolved. Okay. And the two major political parties have had power over these years and have not been able to resolve the crisis in education.
Well, let's just agree, Honorable Ekwe.
We will not be scared.
Yes, let's just agree, Honorable, that I mean, perhaps as events unfold, the issues that you're saying will be resolved one way or the other, and of course, the agenda of Labour would be known, whether as a party or as an advocacy group. For now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning. Honorable Comrade Uchenna Ekwe is head International Relations, is also liaison to National Assembly for the NLC, as well as Remy Dairo, who is President, Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
We return after now for another conversation, the third in the series today. Please stay with us. Well. Next conversation is around fighting illicit financial flows. Now, illicit financial flows involve money laundering, bribery by international companies, tax evasion, falsification of business transactions, and corruption, among several others. Now, while this affects individuals and economic stability of a country, some people have launched Protect What's Yours campaign groups in partnership with 9 governmental organizations, including the EFCC, the ICPC, the FIRS, and is funded by the British government. So let's discuss how the forces joined together to fight financial crimes, among others. This morning we have Suleiman Arigbabu, who is Executive Director, Head of Resource Center, as well as Yele Okeremi. Both of them join us this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning, gentlemen. Let me begin with you, Mr. Arigbabu. This conversation is most certainly an endless one. Perhaps, okay, I think perhaps I should begin with you, Mr. Okeremi. What's missing in the information that people have about these illicit financial flows? We've been talking about this for quite a while, and I also recall, as I said at the beginning of the program, that even the president himself, was it circa 2015 or thereabout, lamented illicit financial flows and connected the dots between illicit financial flows and possession of firearms and several other things like that. Perhaps there are gaps that people are not aware of. You want to take us through that?
Thank you very much, Ayo. I don't think it's about having gaps that people are not aware of. I think we just need to appreciate that the word illicit suggests that what we have is profitable on its own, but it's not good for the common good. And so what that means is that if people are left in the wild to do whatever they please, they would naturally want to do illicit things. So the word, when we say it is illicit, it means that there is a law or a legislation that prohibits those actions. But at individual levels or at business persons levels, if there were no laws, those things would be profitable. So to give examples, when we say illicit trade in certain artifacts, you would appreciate that these artifacts are pretty expensive, and so anyone that has access to them would definitely make some reasonable profits. The reason why they are said to be illicit is because government wants to protect those artifacts. And on the other hand, just like you rightly opened, every responsible sovereign wants to be in control of its security, because that's at least one of the fundamental requirements of good governance, having protection of life and property. And so they want to be able to control funds flow. They want to be able to see visibly how funds are moving from point A to point B. And so what happens in illicit trades is people do trades that may not be visible to government and, for example, anti-money laundering agencies. And these are the kind of money flows that invariably go into firearms, illegal firearms, and things like that that lead to insecurity. And that's why every state is concerned. But generally speaking, and I do agree, sometimes people are not aware of the laws that say certain things are illegal or illicit. But even when people are aware, for natural financial motivations, they will still want to do it. And therefore, one of the most important things to ensure that illicit money flows doesn't happen is enforcement. So whenever you have weak governments or weak enforcement agencies, you will continue to see a lot of illicit flows.
Let me begin. So, let me ask you this, Dr. Keremi. This might sound like a stupid question, so you'll forgive me. Is it possible for anyone to be involved in illicit financial crime and not be aware of it? I ask that question against the backdrop of inclusion or involvement of technology in the process. We'll talk about the technology end eventually, but I just want to ask you this as someone who is in the space. Is it possible to be directly or indirectly involved in illicit financial flows and not know that you are?
I think you've asked a very good question. You see, that the answer to the question is actually yes, in a way, because if the laws are not well publicized, then of course people may say we are ignorant of the law. But you and I also know, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a maximum, a common saying that ignorance is not an excuse in the law. So whether you are aware of it or not, ideally, it is the responsibility of everybody to check whether what he or she is about to go into is illicit or not. Because if you are caught, you cannot give the excuse that it's because I didn't know. So actually, I do agree that it's possible. I mean, people are ignorant about so many things. I really do agree with that. But it turns out that whether you are aware of it or not, if you do anything illicit and then the law catches up with you, you have to pay for it.
Ms. Harigbabu, thank you again for joining us this morning. Well, you've heard Dr. Keremi's opening about what it means, illicit financial crime or illicit financial flow, what it means. What's your own perspective to it?
All right. Thank you and good morning to our viewers. I would like to narrow the definition of illicit to financial flows because, I mean, there are so many illicit. There is even illicit gain, if you see. In terms of illicit financial flow, which is the focus for Nigeria now and indeed for Africa, we need to look at some numbers. So, for instance, there's an high-level panel of Africa headed by former President of South Africa, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, said that between 2000 and 2010, Africa lost about $60 billion, and that Nigeria has about $40 billion in that. And then there's also the Chatham House report that gave a span of a period where Africa is said to have lost over $865 billion. So if you look at the kind of numbers we are talking about, let's do comparison because according to the Premium Times report we were mentioning, Nigeria is said to lose about $18 billion annually to illicit financial flow. So what exactly is illicit financial flow? Illicit financial flows are money that are meant for Nigeria, to put Nigeria in focus, either money that companies are supposed to pay in taxes, monies that they are supposed to pay in royalty, money that belong to the country. There are people illicitly using a very sophisticated network of enablers, both international banking institutions and, of course, local officials. So you find a lot of these being perpetrated by multinational companies. You find a lot of it being perpetrated by big Nigerian companies. You find most of it, of course, being perpetrated by Nigerian government officials. So $18 billion annually, if you understand, the continent of Africa requires every year between $7 to $15 billion to deal with climate change. Now, one country, Nigeria, loses $18 billion annually to illicit financial. And then when we say illicit financial flow, we are not talking about the entirety of corruption that is happening in Nigeria, for instance. We're just talking about those that find their way out of our shores into different international financial institutions. And it's interesting that the UK government is supporting the those who have put up this very good report in Premium Times. But unfortunately, the UK is one of the epicenters where illicit financial flow from Africa finds refuge. And they have stubbornly, if you look, let me give you, for instance, the case that we all are aware of, the Ibori case, where it was alleged they have confiscated about 120 million pounds from Mr. James Ibori, former governor of Delta State. And after all these years, they wanted to release just 4.5 million pounds of that money. Imagine the percentage that they want to, out of their generosity, release. So imagine what the remaining 120 million would have done in our economy or to the lives of people of Delta State. Imagine how much it has contributed to the economy and to the interests, of certain individuals in Britain and the entire British economy. These are the kind of things we are saying. We are saying that people take away our progress, our education, our jobs, our healthcare, and stash them abroad, and instead bring back insecurity, poverty, joblessness, and hopelessness into this country. So it's a very serious matter for Nigeria. Unfortunately, it does not appear that just 2 weeks ago, Nigeria lost a bid to retrieve about $1.7 billion from JP Morgan in a matter in the UK because the Nigerian government googled its own case and did not diligently prosecute that matter. Not only would we lose that, there are some other monies that have been waiting for Nigeria just to pick up from the same OPL 245 case, for instance, the Malabu matter. $120 million somewhere in the Scandinavia, waiting for Nigeria to pick up out of what had been retrieved for people involved in that scam. But that money will go back because Nigeria did not prosecute diligently the matter in the UK, the matter in Italy and in other places. So when we are talking about illicit financial flow, it is one of the reasons why this country is sitting on insecurity, on extreme poverty, 80 million or thereabout children out of school. If you want to also understand for comparison, my organization, Header Resource Center, earlier in the year released our 5th edition of the annual compendium of 100.
Yeah, we'll come to that report. I've seen it, and you know this is quite daunting. And I mean, according to the report, you have something in the region of more than $35 billion, it will seem, that we need to consider. But we'll come to that report, and it's actually very, very damning. But let me come back to you, Dr. Keremi. You know, one of the things that disturbs me about this conversation is, I mean, that collaboration with those agencies of government, the EFCC, the ICPC, the FIRS, and the rest of them. I'm wondering what your opinion is on how that collaboration would work. Here is why I'm asking the question. The president has spoken about this, and I think I've only heard him speak about it once. But the way insecurity has gone, it would seem like the president has spoken about that quite more frequently. In terms of policies, laws, regulations guiding the way we do things, do you see a strong resolve indeed, an institutional resolve to terminate illicit financial flows? Secondly, do you see it happening?
Thank you. And I think you've asked very fundamental questions. So first of all, whether there is a resolve, yes. I think if you take a look at the current government of the day, they came to power on only one point. They had, as far as I'm concerned, all the manifestos of this government was anti-corruption. That was all they had to tell Nigerians when they were coming in. And so that shows at least some intent to curb some of these issues. Because if we take a look at what Mr. Babu went to take a look at in terms of illicit financial flows, I think the first and most important thing is let's leave the flow out of it initially. Let us address the root causes of the illicit flows, and that's exactly what you are talking about. Well, you see, there's a very interesting maxim that if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. So good intentions, even if you catch an armed robber, it will give you good reasons why, you know, he did it. If you speak to the Accountant General that allegedly, you know, made away with 80 billion, he will give you good reasons why he doesn't want his family to the 20th generation to, you know, not to suffer. And that tells us one thing, that good intentions is cheap. Anybody can have good intentions. But if you are going to be successful, and that addresses the second question you have asked, if you are going to be successful about anything, including leading a family, we have to be aware that good intention must be added to a good game plan. And when we talk about a good game plan, we are talking about your strategy, your tactics of addressing it. It's not just enough to say, oh yes, we are going to tackle corruption. Anybody can say that. But what is the game plan? And the game plan are some of the things you are talking about. Ensuring that we have appropriate understanding at judiciary, ensuring that we have appropriate enlightenment of the society. Those are practical things. Then after you having a good game plan, you need competence. It doesn't matter whether your game plan is good. The devil of most things that everybody, human endeavor, does, the devil is in the execution.
Talking about execution, my apologies. Talking about execution,
yes,
let's go to one of your areas of specialty, which is technology. How significant is the use of technology in the leakages that make this happen? I know that we have a cybercrime law. That's actually one of the reasons I asked, if we have a strong enough institutional instrument, that can help to deal with this issue. So in terms of the use of technology in the flows, in the leakages, how wide is the lacuna that need to be blocked? And talking about competence or character, or competence that you talked about the other time, or capacity that you talked about this time, do you think we have the capacity and the competence to use technology to deal with this challenge?
Look, Ayo, let me be clear about this. Point blank, there's absolutely no aspect of technology, including biotechnology, that Nigeria doesn't have. We have Nigerians all over the world that are excelling in this area. But you see, whether Nigerians have the competence or not is not an issue. But one of the things I've always said is a mediocre secondary school, their football team will probably defeat the national team of France. If the national French team decides that their number 9, their main striker, they put him at the goal, and then they put the person who is supposed to be central defender at the right wing. It tells us that formation is about everything. It's not just about having the brightest minds, it's about putting them in the right places. So whether Nigerians have the skill or not, I have absolutely no doubt about it. The issues are the people who are occupying those offices. How equipped are they? And that's where the real issues are. And just like you said, so whether we have people that can do it or not, there's absolutely that we have abundance of them, both locally and in the diaspora. But the issues that we face is whether we are putting the right people in the right places. And that speaks to the components I was talking about, having a good game plan. And the last component I didn't talk about was discipline. Whether we are disciplined enough to continue to prosecute what we have to do, even when it appears as if we are not yet getting results. Those are the issues. So I think, yes, we have people that can do it, but the people that are there, a good number of them, two problems, are not properly equipped technically. And then you'll be very surprised that sometimes I say some of these things that, oh, maybe people there don't know. But you'll be surprised that a good number of people there actually know a lot more than you think that they know. But they also have their own interests. And that also speaks to this illicit financial flows that we're talking about. Because when people have interests, then they begin to bend the rules, they begin to frustrate the process of doing the right things. Those are the challenges that we face. But much more importantly, I can say with a lot of boldness that we still have not created a well-grounded institutional framework to curb some of these illicit financial flows. But whether we have people that have the skill or not, I have no doubt that we have them. They are abundant.
Well, Mr. Rigbabu, let's go to that data that you're talking about. You released a document, a compendium of 100 high-profile corruption cases in Nigeria. That's quite daunting. And I see that in that document, the total amount recorded according to the data analysis in the document that you produced comes to some 17 trillion naira. That's about $35.4 billion. In that document, I see that it is said, according to the report that you released, that the females recorded against the females is about $20 billion plus, and $15 billion recorded against the names of the men. Can you take us through this, data and how you arrived at these figures?
Okay, thank you. So first about that report, to understand that report does not contain that of the Accountant General's aides. Those are new. Every year we update. We step down some cases reported either because they have been concluded or because they have been thrown into irrelevance at the 100. So we are just picking 100 of some of we believe to be the most relevant. And in this latest 100, 17 trillion, which is more than Nigeria's budget for this year, is what Nigeria is trying to retrieve from Nigerians, from Nigeria, politically exposed. And you can understand that 100 is just a drop in the ocean. We are not talking about what's happening at local government, what's happening mostly at state level, and what's happening in so many federal parastatals that are yet to be investigated or that are yet to be charged. We only report cases that have been charged to court. So you can see that there is a huge gap. Now, secondly, in terms of the gender performance there, yes, it's interesting that women unfortunately showed up on these terrible statistics. But let me throw something in their defense, is to say that when you then do a disaggregation, the number of women involved in some of these cases are quite few compared to men. It's just that there are some, to have a better word, women whose level of corruption, beats anybody's imagination. And that's why, and in 2021, we wrote a letter to Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, that there are about 900 billion tied down in anti-corruption cases that are being prosecuted, that the government is not prosecuting diligently and that they needed to work on. Matter of fact, we also trace, because we have been trained for some years, we have been training Nigerian journalists, activists, and interested citizens on how to trace illicit assets owned by Nigerians, either in Nigeria or especially abroad. We found out that just about 10 governors have properties, the ones that we have found out anyway, in the UK alone, worth £56 million. These are the kind of money that people take out of this country to enrich other economies. So you then wonder why Nigeria will not be having the kind of insecurity we have. Now, Dr. Okenide, please pardon me if I missed the name. I was saying earlier that perhaps what is most missing for us is the will. And I have to agree with him that unfortunately this government rode into power on the cry of we are going to deal with corruption. But goodwill, yes, that was what he said, that goodwill alone is not enough. We have seen a lot of goodwill without now we can't even say it's goodwill anymore, because you see a president always talking about how corruption is killing Nigeria. Unfortunately, the same president appoints people into his cabinet who will protect corruption and the people of corruption.
Well, Mr. Adegbabo, there's a lot to unpack in that document, so if you can just speak to him. I also noticed that in that same document, some of the data that you released, the analysis shows that the frequency of counts and percentage of major defendants in the charges shows that the former ministers and advisors accounted for 13%, senators accounted for 2%, former governors accounted for 15%, and then there is others accounting for 70%. What are the components of these others?
Okay, thank you. So you will understand that those who enable corruption are not necessarily those who go to the ballot to be elected. So, for instance, you have, like I said, we have not included the case of this attorney general. The case of accountant, auditor general, for instance. So when these are the components of other people who have parastatals, people who are coming from state level, who had programs, who had projects, former ministers, the enablers of corruption. So when you look at the gamut, and like I did say, why sometimes these statistics change from year to year is that we only focus on cases that are in court, of course, to avoid being guilty of defaming anybody. We only report on cases that are in court, and we update the status of those cases. So all the others that we are talking about, these are people in federal government parastatals. Some are charged with managing certain responsibilities. We have NNPC, we have so many corporations of government where the actual corruption takes place. So the poster boy or girl of the corruption sometimes is maybe a minister or a governor. Really, even in the military, a lot of money that is meant to defend, to help our troops on the various fronts in the northeast, in the northwest, and across the country, finds their way into private hands, private pockets. So these are some of those who make up these orders that we are talking about.
Okay.
And like I did say, will.
Yeah. Well, just to my apologies for butting in. Before I go to Dr. Kerem, I just want to ask you, this report you said is the fifth in the series. It accounts for from what year to what year?
Okay, so this report was reporting just 2021 up to November 2021. That's December 2020 to November 2021. And that's the cycle for the report.
2020 to 2021.
December 2020 to November 2021.
Okay, so
that's your normal cycle. Okay. Why this one came out in May was that there were some errors that we discovered. Okay. And we had to do a reprint. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Keremi, how significant do you see this kind of work that's been done by Header Resource Center in the fight against illicit financial crimes?
I want to say kudos, good work, because you see, one of the things we understand about management is when management wants to solve problems, one of the things we say is it frequently discussed? If an issue is not frequently discussed, it means it's not getting sufficient visibility of leadership or management. So how do we get these conversations going? This is part of what they have done, and good, very good indeed, that they've brought this, and we hope that the conversations will continue, because when conversations keep going on around something, it is expected, other things being equal, that there will be resolutions. I mean, the way the Yoruba people say it, very intelligent people, they will tell you that a person that continues to repeat what is going on, if you put yam on the fire, the yam will never get burnt, because it's always saying, oh, my yam is on the fire. So many people are going to be involved, directly or indirectly, in ensuring that the yam gets cooked without getting burnt. So I think it's a good step in line. However, I want to say something that I think is important that we should note. That yes, these are the things that we see. But let me explain that there's a whole lot that actually, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot beneath the iceberg that we are not seeing. Look, what we see are the ones that can be traced. Bank accounts. And that's the question you asked about whether, technology, if the money is flowing from one bank account to another bank account, absolutely, we can trace it. We can see how the money moved from bank A to bank B and so on and so forth. Those are easy to catch. How about the ones that actually just go and dip their hands in cash? And then they go and build small huts in their villages. And they keep the cash in dollars. How are we going to trace those kind of things? And I think these are big issues. And that's one of the reasons why many governments all over the world talk about anti-money laundering, and they want to know every transaction above a particular threshold in cash. They expect that it should be reported.
But if that has been reported, if that policy of government has been as effective as it ought to be, I think that policy dates back to the Sanusi era when he was CBN governor. If that is correct, and that's been on for so many years, I think we've had like maybe one or two other CBN governors after that. How come we are still where we are? Is that to say that the system is not supporting that policy, or what exactly do you think is going on?
Very big problems. The problem is when you have a football match and the referee is part of another team, which team do you expect to win? So what we are getting is a situation where the people who are regulators in themselves are culpable of a lot of the crimes that we are talking about. So there's a way the Yoruba says that you are reporting a wicked person to a wicked person. You are not going to get justice. So, you see, it doesn't matter what form of government or what formation that you have. Bad people will continue to instill pain on Nigerians. So, we need to take a very good look at the top of leadership.
Okay,
I'm not addressing any specific person.
Yeah,
but this is just the fact.
Yeah, you spoke to the fact that sometimes, I mean, well, it's easy to trace money transfers because there is the use of technology. But then isn't that the part of the reason, and there are those who would also point to cryptocurrency and government's move against that one. Do you see that also helping, government being averse to crypto transactions in the country? Do you see it as something veritable enough to deal with the issues, or is just maybe a slap on the wrist or pretense?
No, it's not. And they are related, but also there's a way we can separate them. You see, issues of cryptocurrency, I have come to one realization. If you take a look at the countries where these things are preponderant, you notice that these countries are countries that actually have very weak leadership, very weak institutions, very weak government. And that's why, if you look at, the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies that are really are being talked about, and people try to use those as store of values, people are trying to move away from their foreign or sovereign currencies into such securities because they do not have confidence in their sovereign currencies. And you can understand why. Today you hold a naira, and by tomorrow or the day after, what you could buy without 1 naira, you would need 5. And so what people are looking for is where can they store value. And so the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency did at a point present some solace to a lot of people that they wanted to keep their monies in that particular area. But then no responsible sovereign would allow itself not to be able to monitor financial flows. And that explains why many governments, including that of Nigeria, also said they did all sorts of things to discourage the use of crypto. But then the central bank also comes up with a central bank digital currency. For all intents and purposes, it's the same technology. The central bank digital currency is a cryptocurrency, except that it is controlled by the sovereign. And we do know who the issuer and the ultimate obligor is.
Okay.
But the fact that we have that platform does not mean that the monies are invisible. On the blockchain, which is the technology that controls cryptocurrencies and central bank digital currencies, the transactions are actually transparent, and they are even transparent to all. So government is able to monitor what happens on such platforms.
Well, we can only hope and pray that somehow, this will not just be talk, but really actionable activity on the part of government and every one of us involved, as you have said earlier, Dr. Okeremi. But for now, we have to thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of our conversation. Dr. Yele Okeremi is CEO of Precise Financial Systems. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, as well as Sulaiman Arigbabo, who is Executive Secretary, Header Resource Center. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time this morning.
All pleasure.
All right. Well, Sunrise continues right after now with another conversation. This time it's got to do with leadership. Do stay with us. You're gonna have to wait to enjoy a little more of that later on this morning. But for now, let's talk about leadership. A non-governmental organization, Bomene Bari, is gearing up to hold 2022 Lagos Leadership Conference with leaders across Africa here in Lagos. We have some of its representatives with us to tell us more. Bayo Olorun is chairman, LLC 2023 Strategic Committee. Thanks for joining us this morning. I suspected that would be you. Ashina Joseph is secretary of the committee. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. As well as Femi Amino, who is a member of the committee. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. First of all, did I get that name right?
Yeah, Bayo Olorun.
No. Bomene Bari. Thank you so much. So let me begin with you, Mr. Chairman. You are a non-governmental organization.
Yes, sir.
The natural question that I will ask you first of all is, what's the meaning of Bomene Bari?
Bomene Bari is is an Ogoni language.
Wow.
And it came from our leader, Pastor Charles Pande, who is the convener of the program.
Okay.
Abominabari essentially is talking about. I'm not very sure of the language. But something
Okay.
has
Let me rescue you from that. Then, but and let's talk about the leadership conference itself. So it's been organized by Abominabari Leadership Foundation. What necessitated it?
Well, essentially, over the years, it started in 2008.
Okay.
Over the years, we discovered that there's a leadership gap in Nigeria, all over the world, as it were. We discovered that the major thing that happens if you want something to work is to fix the leadership. And we feel that once leadership is fixed, you can fix the organization, you can fix the system. And so in Nigeria, we found out over the years that there's this leadership gap that is missing, and we'll be organizing the program every year to see how we can bridge that leadership gap. And where
exactly is the leadership? The leadership gap? Is it just in government or in business, or just exactly what areas are you looking at?
Okay, we look all areas of leadership. Like the one for this year, we're looking at leadership for women, leadership for the youth, and we're leadership for the business. And then we're looking at essentially, we're looking at the future of politics in Nigeria as well. Because you see, we feel in Abominabari that once we fix leadership, we fix everything, like I said earlier on. And so we feel that every system will produce its own leaders. I mean, you cannot bring, the leaders are going to emerge from the system. So we feel that if we can inject our own little knowledge here and there, impart people here and there to be able to prepare them for leadership. So wherever they find themselves, then they can be able to at least put an end to this problem we have with leadership in the system in Nigeria.
Any particular age range in your coverage?
Not for this year, no. Okay, because we have for the youth, we have for the women, we have for the men. So there's no age range, because we believe that at any point in time you find yourself in leadership, age is not really necessarily the issue.
Let me ask you, Mr. Joseph. Over the years, since 2008, what are some of the high points you would say that Abominabari has been able to achieve with this conference?
Okay, I mean, thank you very much. One area that, I mean, if you look at the leadership conference we've hosted in the last 3-4 years, 2020 was one of the major life-changing year all over the world. It's an annual event that we organized since 2008, every July. That year, even in the midst of COVID-19, we're still able to organize the leadership conference. With the team leading in extraordinary times. And we had the privilege of having the governor of the state coming to speak about leading with courage, how he was able to galvanize the entire state to manage the COVID-19 pandemic then in Lagos State. And it was that was an up one for us, because it was not an event that took place in a hall. We actually used technology from a studio. Everything was put to bear. We have somebody that spoke from South Africa, from FIDADB, one of the vice presidents there spoke. And everything works so perfectly well. So we were able to portray the fact that if the leadership is right, there's nothing the people cannot do. And that was how Lagos State was able to champion and manage COVID. Last year, for example, if you look at it, many things have been said about youth in Nigeria. And last year, the team was repositioning for the future. And all our speakers are people that are in between the Generation Z and the old people. And what were we doing? We're trying to channel the youth towards farming. So we brought Mogaji, African
farmer.
we brought in Mr. Femi Adeoti, the former CEO of Inlas Computer, talking to the youth, talking to everyone, mostly the youth, about how to channel their energy into technology and using technology to achieve their objective and becoming leaders that are knowledgeable, aware, and can use technology to achieve so many objectives. So that's that.
You know, it's interesting that you talked about conducting a virtual conference.
Yes.
Having speakers from various parts of the world.
Yes.
And then yesterday, you spoke on COVID. Just yesterday, Mr. Joseph, I saw a movie, full movie, Mr. Aminu, beg your pardon, a full movie shot across 17 countries. Everything of the movie was shot on Zoom. A whole movie, about 90 minutes. Let me go local. Afraid catch me. So, what are some of the things that you would say, Mr. Amino, that have been achieved? What kind of feedback has this conference produced over the years, and what are your hopes for the one of this year?
Thank you very much. I think the expectations are actually very high. The issue of this leadership deficit is what has been spoken severally, and like he said, you know, it cuts across the youths, all ages and across. There's so much that is expected in terms of, for instance, there will be opportunity for, you've got younger generation, there's a lot of clamor to be leaders or to rise to leadership position, but there's also a bit of you also growing into this extent. So that's something which is very key. And I think much more important, so looking at it from the different perspectives, like you spoke in terms of technology, a lot of things has changed around, you know, the way things were done in the past and the way things are done. And if you really look at it now, there's so much emphasis on technology. There are a lot of areas in which things like, for instance, fintech, science, technology, that things needs to really move and actually be projected well. So I feel this particular conference will actually speak a lot to those areas.
Okay, but I'm talking about, first, you didn't speak to the feedback that you've gotten over the years.
Oh, feedback. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I missed that actually. I think there's something actually we even did talk about, because like you said, there was one of the year, 2020, when they did, 2021, we did repositioning for leaders, and something was done that was very dramatic, and that was like, there was a search for an unsung leader. And what happened then was that, look, there was like a general check in terms of looking for a leader that is doing something in his own cycle. Remember, leadership cuts across different areas. It could be in communities, it could be in government, it could be in companies. But a lot of times, the real leaders are actually hidden in places which you don't see. So there was actually a competition that was done, and there was a site to go into the nook and crannies to locate an unsung leader. And something very particular was that leader was celebrated. And not only that, there actually was an NGO, and then they gave them actually a large sum of money that was donated to just help them. And by the time there was testimonies to show in terms of the impact that those leaders actually had. And I think that's something which is very, very, very significant.
Is that a way of saying that Bon Benemari is also an unsung leader?
Like you said, to some extent, you understand. But, you know, in actual sense, you know, it's only those that have visibility that you can talk about. But there are quite a lot of leaders happening, because actually leadership starts from the home. Leadership happens in the school. Leadership happens in anywhere. And actually, even for your person, you need to also lead yourself.
Certainly. And I think that's where the leadership problem actually starts. So let me come back to you, Mr. Olorun. This year, what's the plan?
Well, this year we have a 2-day program. Okay. On the Friday the 8th, we have what we call Church Leadership Summit.
Friday the 8th is the Friday ahead of us?
Yes, sir. Okay. We have Church Leadership Summit. Because the theme for this year is leading in season of darkness and confusion. Because we believe that that's the time we are in. It's more than the 2 years COVID, because we're having the effect of COVID, and we're having other things coming together with it. So it's actually almost, that's why we say it's season of darkness and confusion. So we want to see how, on Friday, we want to see how we can get church leaders together and get them to see how they can navigate through this time that we're in, because the churches are not left out, ministers are not left out. You need to get yourself informed as to how you are going to be able to navigate through the time that we're in, with all the information, with all the challenges that are going on around. And then On Saturday, we are going to be looking at things from perspective of the women, from youth, and from business. So we're having two speakers, on site, and we're having two speakers online speaking to the same topic. We're looking at how the youth will be able to navigate, how the women will navigate, and then how the business leaders will navigate. And then we'll also get somebody who's going to be speaking about the hope for the future, because we believe this is not how it's going to end. There's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. How do we prepare for that? So somebody's going to be speaking towards that as well.
Okay, so it's a hybrid event.
Yes.
Can you want to mention some of the speakers you're looking at?
We're looking at for the Friday program. We're looking at Pastor E. Odeyemi, is one of the continental overseers of Redeem, Reverend Samson Ajitumobi, the president of Men of Isaka Ibadan, and then we're looking at Ode Akatu. He's coming in from the UK. He's a passionate evangelist. For the Saturday, we're looking at Mrs. Dada. This is the Honorable Commissioner for Women and Poverty Alleviation for Lagos State. Ade Ayeyemi is the MD CEO of EcoBank Transnational, and then I think Benga Afolabi. Benga Afolabi is going to be speaking on that day. Okay. And then we have Yemi Adedeji speaking from the UK as well. She's the one that's going to be talking about the hope for the future.
Okay. So, Mr. Joseph, yes. Any other attractions like Mr. Aminu spoke the other time about unsung heroes? What's unsung this time around?
Oh. The major attraction for this year is the fact that the conference is segmented. We have 4 speakers, and each of them will be targeting a particular group of people. Mrs. Cecilia Bolaji Dada, the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs, will be championing the speaking to women and how to lead in this season. And it's great in that she's the one on the hot seat in Lagos State on women affairs and also poverty alleviation. So we believe she'll be able to do justice. And also, we believe the conference will give her the platform actually to reach out to many people in that area. Then Victor Afolabi will be speaking specifically to the youth. He's an entrepreneur, he's an IT savvy person, he's done so many things, and now is with Eco Innovation Hub. So the youth, we have they have the privilege to have one of their own speak to them. Okay. One of their own galvanizing them and giving them the platform to be able to actually dream dreams and bring those dreams to fruition. And Mr. Ade Ayeyemi is a very versatile man. He presently, like the chairman has said, happens to be the chairman, the group managing director.
So that's the area of speakers you're looking at?
Yes, Ade Ayemi is the second person. So he's going to be, before now, he was the group CEO for Sub-Saharan Africa for Citigroup. And in the last couple of years, he has been the one at the helm of affairs at EcoBank Transnational, with 33, that is present in 33 African nations. And they have offices across the globe. So he's coming with wealth of experience for businesses. If you rank the CEOs of banks in Nigeria, it will be among the top 3 in Nigeria. So he has the capacity, he has the depth. So he's coming to actually speak from experience. And I believe as many businessmen and women that are available for the conference will have something to take home, not just from the books, but from practical experiences on how to lead in this season of darkness and confusion Thank you, sir.
From what I see, there are like 8 speakers in that area that I saw the other time. Okay. And most certainly, so I see that there is a website that people can get. What's the website?
LLC conference.
LLconference.com.
LLC conference. LLconference.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do people participate? It's a hybrid event.
Yeah. People can actually join online. Okay. But actually, there's a physical event which is going to happen at the location in Lekki. That's a Jack on the First Gate. That's the key point. So people can actually watch online. They just go first to the website. Okay. From the website, they can actually register. And if you have opportunity to see the handbill also, you can actually scan, and then you can actually straight away just register. It's the Friday event, it's church event, is actually a free event. The Saturday event is actually a paid event. But when you go, they can just follow the details to register, fill in their details, and then they can do the relevant.
It's a paid. If it's a paid event, what's the fee to pay?
Oh, okay. If you're watching, if you're actually coming physically, it's 5,000 naira. If you're actually gonna watch virtually, it's 3,000 naira. But that's actually just for Saturday event.
Okay.
There's a discount for youth.
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
The youth will pay 2,000. Especially if they come in bulk, minimum of 10, they get 2,000. And then if youth wants to watch online virtually, it's 1,000 naira.
Is there a scholarship for first comers?
I think that scholarship will be sponsored by channels.
Well, you have to apply to the sponsors to come sponsor it.
Maybe to add, one thing is sure is that nobody will be turned back. So nobody needs to get an opportunity because actually that's also adding value. And remember, they said it's by Barry Foundation, so it's an NGO. So it's actually about adding value to people and dealing with situations, because the truth is like there's so much confusion and darkness around. Is showing the pathway.
Chairman, as we round off this, I would like you to provoke, if I can use the word, the topic of leading in season of darkness and confusion by speaking to those who should bookmark it in their calendars now in order to be a part of the program, whether offline or online. What are the things that, because many people may not even know it as a season of darkness or a season of confusion, what are those elements that you think, if you perceive this or you notice this in your experience, you need to be at this conference?
Yeah, okay. For example, if you are a youth, for example, we have what we have unemployment as we have now, and people don't have jobs. There's no future. In fact, that's why people complain about people getting out to all manner of things and all that. We feel that if you are unemployed and you think it seems as if there's no future for you because of the darkness and the gloominess, if you come to this program, we believe that you will be able to at least dream a dream, get a dream. If you're running a business and you're afraid of the future because it seems as if you can't even predict, you can't make plans, all the strategic plannings are failing. So we believe that people are coming in to be able to say, okay, you know what, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. The issue of security is something else that is also there, because across board, churches, businesses and all that, we have this issue of insecurity all over the world, not just in Nigeria. And so one of the things we are looking at is, especially even for the churches too, we're looking at how do we run churches at this time, okay? Because everybody's afraid. But if you are afraid, we believe that if you come for this program, we will be able to, it may not be able to remove the fear, but we'll be able to tell you, okay, you can navigate.
You can do it afraid.
You can you can navigate through this system. Okay.
The dates one more time, Mr. Amino.
July 8th, which is Friday. That's the church event. And then July 9th, which is Saturday.
All right.
And then the time is 9.
So that's the information on your screen now, leading in season of darkness and confusion, and all of the information is right there on your screen to take advantage of. And that website also, llconference.com. That's it. You can be a part of that. I want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here this morning. Olorun is the chairman of LLC 2022 Strategic Committee. Thank you so much for for your time this
Thank
morning.
you for having us.
Shino Joseph is secretary of the committee. Thank you, as well as Femi Amino, who is a member of the committee. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next is the home stretch, and we come back to you right after now. Okay, we're going to close with this. That fellow you're seeing on the screen is going to tell you all about himself. The only name I have known him as is Boyce Olorun. He is our artist of the week. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure.
It's what they say is a Christ-centered music and entertainment brand that delivers premium local music, Apala genre being the core, in the most contemporary language possible. They use the music to put the Yoruba culture in the heart of the growing Nigerian and a global sport. Okay, you have been exposed here. Fenomi Biala is the lead and face of the group and is a change agent working as a cultural ambassador who believes traditional isn't local. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here again.
Again?
Oh, yeah.
And today, not playing music, just talking. I hope you don't break into a song, anytime now, because I know it's not impossible. Anyway, tell us about the group, Boyce Olorun. You featured on this station as well, during our December show. Tell us about the group. What inspired it? What necessitated it?
This whole thing started in 2007, right? So about that time, I just wanted to do something different in the music space. I'm being a church boy. There was a dimension. Every potential musician that was coming out from the church was going then. And so thanks to Anaji Musiliu, Arude Shalaya's Babangani Agba's son, who came back with the So You thing. And so he made Apala music. He made it come back to us. And then it was beautiful how the young, the youth, the children, the elderly, everybody just accepted the way he brought it back. So I saw an opening to do something in the gospel way, So I just, brought in
your own element to it.
Yeah, my stuff into it, and then
I think you have only just exposed yourself. You've just happened to like Apala yourself.
I like music.
Okay.
I like the Yoruba music. I like the rich Yoruba music. I like the percussion. I like it. I had a friend when I was in the university. He would, whenever he hears the gong or the shekere or the omili or the bata, the guy would say, Eje. like it's in the blood. So it's who we are. We are Africans. We are groovy people. Our music is so when you're a Yoruba man, when you hear the percussion, something happens to you. It's calling forth something from.
What's interesting in what you just said now is the percussions is no longer limited to Nigeria. No longer limited to Yoruba culture, not limited to Nigeria. There's a genre of music, in the Oscars. It's called world music. And world music is largely percussion-driven music from all parts of the world. Could be Asian, could be European, but so long as it has that rich cultural dimension to it, it definitely always catches on. What's been the experience and acceptance been for you over the years?
Okay, so very interesting. sometimes when you get to see the unbelievable class of people or classes of people that are so enthusiastic about your music, about my music. So I love the acceptance, I would tell you. Though at the earlier stage, you know, I was always thinking I had the language barrier. Until
really?
Because Apala is
largely Yoruba.
Largely Yoruba, you know, and you know, for most of the times, it sits well with the Yoruba language. We try to bring in some other stuff, but it sits so well. But when you not got to even realize that when you want to sing, use the English language, for instance, in it, then it now becomes comic.
That is the angle that of my next question, because it would seem like it's not just music, it's music comedy.
Yeah.
Is that something was that deliberate?
Yes.
That even in the, if not just in the mixture of you know, hybrid of Yoruba and other languages that you put in, but the fact that even in the selection or choice of words in your lyrics, there's comedy in it. Is it deliberate?
Yeah, very deliberate. Very deliberate. You see, comedy, I mean, thanks to the class of the Alibabas and Bengadenyikas, you know, who built an industry around the comedy. And then comedy is now, you know, finding its way into everything, almost everything. People want to laugh. And whatever makes people laugh just gets people's attention. So it was deliberate to infuse comedy into what we do. And then we just now use comedy that actually centers around, you know, our upbringing. You know, we grew up in a very funny town.
Okay.
That's Ibadan.
Tell us about that.
So,
don't be afraid to use your language if necessary.
I may have to. You know, Ibadan is comic.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, Ibadan people, we are funny. We are very funny. Like, for instance, the way we respond to things, we're just so funny. Well, I wouldn't want to say Ibadan people can so abuse.
Okay.
Yeah, but funny things.
But they know how to describe.
They know how to describe. You know, so like Ibadan can tell you, and then you now be like, nakukuke means like when you hold you
raise a fist.
You raise a fist, and then you now want to imagine raising a fist and then looking at the person the way he sits on the neck, and you'll be like, I mean, what kind of comparison could this be? You know, and then we are very mounted. You know, like a very popular means of transportation in Ibadan is you know, this very small car like this. And these drivers are, you know, they are just in their own world. You know, these are people who would indicate where they are turning into. Now you can see it, but they will still put that hand and then still like, and then they will now be telling you, like, you know, in a minute, you can see my hand that I'm waving, that I'm already indicating, you know, with my
But there is an indicator in the car.
No, they have to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just complimentary. you know. So, and then being a very proud Ibadan indigen, I always want to build stuffs around it. Like, you know, for instance, I just tell you that if you didn't grow up in Ibadan, or somehow Ibadan is not in your life, you know, I would tell them when I find myself in the church environment that you are not, probably your born again sheep is not is not complete, because.
And why is that?
Okay, so there are unique experiences in Ibadan if you grow up in Ibadan. There are some kind of child plays, you know, like, maybe I should ask you, do you know Ojuore?
A good eyes?
God Almighty. Ojuore, you know, like, is a kind of game, and then so that Ojuore sounds like a place of fortress.
Okay.
You know, like, like some kind of hide and seek, like catch me and you go catch me. You know, like, so once you get to your ojure, nobody can just touch you there. So
that's hide and seek.
You don't know. This one is ojure. You know, buyo.
Buyo is to pack salt.
Yeah, but this one now is it's sand. We use sand around it. So you have that, you heap up, you know, a portion of sand, then you put a broomstick, and then everybody now buyo. So you take a portion from the sand.
Okay,
so whoever takes the last portion that makes the drumstick to fall
will be beaten to pulp.
Amen. You know, and then some kind of experiences like though that could cut across the southwest, but very typical in Ibadan. I mean, like in those days, the public primary schools, when they taught you English in Yoruba, I tell you, G-O, Kinyo, you know, you say, go ni. You know, say, hi, and Kinyo, So, you know, and it's a C-O-M-E, Kinyo, you know, children will be like, Komu. You understand? So they pronounce those words the way they, so like you can hear, no, that those are things that happen. M-A-N-G-O, Kinyo, you hear children shouting, Mangoro.
There's no arrow.
Mangoro. So you know, and then you know, like you probably
it's mango.
You're from a mango. You're from a Tush family, and you could be correcting other people. I'd be like, no, it's not mangoro, it's mangrove. So you know, so you have a lot of our people. So someone could just walk up to a trader and tell you, "F my name Mlik," trying to be Tush Mlik.
Is that supposed to be milk?
Yeah, but you know, they would normally pronounce it as miliki.
Okay.
So this person now trying to be tush, not tell you have name milk. You know, and you hear people talk about it like, okay, can you, I go in your slipper, slipper. You know,
it's a silver.
No, it's slipper. So we just had to build that sense of humor and then bring it into our music, you know.
And it's cheering that you've said that. Anyway, oh God, time flies when you're having fun, right? So, tell me, what is next for Boys Olorun? You talked about the acceptance. I've seen that over the years you've added accompaniments to the percussions.
Yeah.
What necessitated that? If you can tell us that in 30 seconds.
So like just doing everything to put my culture, my traditional music, this Apala, on the global spot. Yeah, so I want to just speak and do my music in a contemporary language as much as I can do it and still retain the originality of the.
So what is next for Boys Olorun?
Okay, so
I see that you have this monthly Thanksgiving events.
Yeah, Thanksgiving Sunday. So what's actually coming up next is my album.
Okay.
Yeah, so my album is coming in, less than 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, with couples of videos. So there's a whole lot of work that has gone into that in the last 1 year.
I can imagine. But let me protest ahead. One of the challenges we have with traditional music is they're in long plays mostly.
Okay, so we have corrected that.
Okay.
We've put you into consideration.
Please, thank you very much.
So we have our tracks in 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 3 minutes, and like that. So you can have them the way you always want them.
What's the future of traditional music where you come from? I'm not just to the traditional Yoruba tradition now, but to African, Nigerian traditional music, the Igbo cultural music, Benin cultural music, Hausa cultural music, Fulani cultural music, and the rest. For you, what's the future?
Okay, so what I see, what I've been seeing, and what we are seeing already is we're getting a better global recognition. Yes, so it's unbelievable. Some parts of the country and some other languages of the country that are already buying into what we're doing, because I see a lot of people trying to infuse, take it to the world, bring the world into it, and then take the music to the world. So I believe our traditional music is going to be be a global music.
Absolutely. We have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and Boyce Olorun, our Artist of the Week, brings our program today to a close. Hopefully we can take some of that song before we go. Until then, and until next week, when I hope to have my co-host here with me, Fermi Biala brings our program to an end today. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and bye for now.